Sobek was a lord of ancient Egypt firmly connected with the crocodiles which lived in the waterway Nile. Sculptures and compositions of the god show him either as a man with a leader of a crocodile or just as a crocodile. 1. Since the immersions of the Nile were so fundamental to Egyptian life, it was particularly significant that Sobek be appeased. While different urban communities needed to manage with offering penances to Sobek, his sculptures at Arsinoe, called Crocodipolis by the Greeks, admirers found the god in a living, flaky form. At the sanctuary of Sobek in Crocodipolis carried on a heavenly crocodile called Petsuchos. The ministers of the sanctuary took care of the agreeable and consecrated brute by hand. The Greek geographer Strabo depicts how contributions were made to Petsuchos. The clerics went ready. Some of them opened its mouth, another put the cake into it, at that point the meat, and a while later poured down the nectar and milk. When a Petsuchos kicked the bucket, conceivably from an excessively rich eating routine, it would be preserved and given a costly interment before another Petsuchos was immediately picked to supplant it. Egyptian pantheon didn't need for zoomorphic divinities with the heads of different creatures. The god Apis, nonetheless, was completely bull and entirely God. Apis spoke to the possibility of endlessness and all-inclusive dependability that turned out to be increasingly more significant for the apparently interminable Egyptian civilization. 2. Apis might be unceasing, yet singular bulls are most certainly not. At the point when Apis kicked the bucket, its body would be embalmed and covered with extraordinary service. In any case, how was another Apis picked when the past one died? The Egyptians accepted that the new Apis was considered when a blaze of light struck at dairy animals. The bull destined to this cow would have certain unmistakable markings on its in any case dark body. It would have a white precious stone on its brow and the characteristic of a falcon on its back. Under the tongue would be discovered an imprint like a scarab. Its tail would be particularly bristly. When the god was distinguished in its new cow-like structure, it would be carried on an extravagant vessel up the Nile to its new home where a celebration would proclaim its appearance. Rodents are not what the vast majority would think about celestial. However, at the Karni Mata sanctuary in India, there are 20,000 of the rodents that are regarded as sacred. In the 15th century, a heavenly lady called Karni Mata emerged who her supporters accepted to be a manifestation of the warrior goddess Durga. Nearby rulers utilized her forces to establish fortifications that could withstand assault and reimbursed her with sanctuaries devoted in her respect. At the point when an offspring of her tribe passed on, she solicited the god from death that the kid be breathed life into back. Demise cannot, however, guarantee that any individual from her tribe who kicked the bucket could return as a rodent until being reawakened as a human. Now, at the Kari Mata sanctuary in Rajasthan, the rodents are thought about and taken care of by aficionados. The rodents are believed to be good karma, and a few guests would like to win their kindness by drinking from the rodents' dishes and eating their extras. The Temple of the Azure Cloud in Penang, also called the Snake Temple, was established out of appreciation for a Buddhist minister Chor Sukong who was a popular healer and heavenly man. So heavenly was he that as opposed to heading out venomous snakes he would offer them sanctuary and security. At the point when the sanctuary was worked, as indicated by legend, snakes began showing up there as though the cleric was still there himself to secure them. The winds in the sanctuary incorporate dangerous pit snakes fit for giving a dreadful nibble. Signs in the sanctuary caution guests not to contact the venomous reptiles. To help quiet the snakes, an immense brazier consumes incense before the sanctuary. In the event that the smoke isn't sufficient to alleviate the snakes, and the signs not adequate to caution off guests, it is said that today the sanctuary snakes have been defanged. The goats of Kokon appear to have an entirely decent arrangement. As they meander around the Nepalese town, vehicles and motorbikes need to turn around them. The goats have a place with the goddess Rudrayani, a manifestation of the goddess Durga. The goats are allowed to meander where they will and munch on any field they run over. The individuals who hurt the goats intentionally or unintentionally may end up reviled by the goddess. 5. Some state they may even kick the bucket for abusing them. This makes what befalls a portion of the goats much more mysterious. The sweet existence of the heavenly goats turns fairly unpleasant during the Depakari celebration. This 900-year-old celebration sees a youthful goat caught and tossed into a lake. Sitting tight for it are a few men who will battle for the option to lead a parade in the town. To lead the parade, they should be the person who murders the goat with their hands or teeth. Goats are routinely destroyed. An appeal has been begun to end what some observe as a brutal practice. The status of bovines in India is one which causes political and at times unfortunate occasions. Most Indian states don't permit the butcher of dairy animals, and individuals have been lynched by crowds who speculate them of eating hamburger. While numerous Hindu individuals perceive the cow as an extraordinary animal, there are situations where a cow is believed to be divine itself. In Muzaffarnagar this year, a bovine was brought into the world with cranial deformations that some idea gave it a human face. 6. The calf kicked the bucket not long after birth. Yet many rushed to perceive what was viewed as a supernatural occurrence. Some idea the calf was a manifestation of the god Vishnu, while others favored a progressively characteristic clarification. The calf had endured serious birth abandons. The director of the safe house where the calf was brought into the world planned to incinerate the creature and erect a sanctuary in its respect. The Nivik individuals of eastern Russia are an indigenous gathering who practice shamanism and hold the bear to be particularly holy. For the Nivik, the bear is an indication of both their progenitors and the divine beings. To send their petitions straightforwardly to the divine beings, they attempt an extensive custom including a bear. Young bears are caught and brought up in the town by neighborhood ladies, treating the bears well and as though they were their own youngsters. Following quite a long while of such consideration, the bear festival begins. 7. A gala is set out for the bears to appreciate. At that point the bears are wearing formal garments and prompted pose in a solidified stream. Tied there, youngsters shoot them with bolts until about dead. At that point one individual is conceded the option to polish the bears off. The bear is then eaten more than a little while. The bear's soul comes back to the divine beings and awards thriving to the Nivik. In the 2nd century AD, another god showed up on Earth, as indicated by a man named Alexander who had found bronze plates which recounted the happened to Glycon. 8. Then, while the establishments of a sanctuary were being borrowed, he snuck in one night and covered a goose egg he had discharged and embedded a newborn child snake into fixing the opening with wax. At that point, to the wonder of his crowd, he uncovered the egg and the god Glycon was conceived, brought forth in his hand. The snake Glycon was, as far as anyone knows, the divine force of mending. Esculapius, yet sculpture and scholarly proof show that Glycon had his own after even a century after his revelation. Sculptures of Glycon show him as a snake with a heavenly head of streaming hair. Some propose that from the start Glycon was only a standard snake wearing a wig or cover, yet that later, after the snake kicked the bucket, was supplanted altogether by a mannequin. Geese can be frightening with their unforgiving blares and raised wings. They can likewise convey a terrible nip in the event that you are not snappy enough to take care of them. That is the reason a few people use them as watchman creatures. Be that as it may, the first watchman geese were found in ancient Rome, where they saved the entire city in the mid-4th century BC. The Gauls assaulted Rome, crushed her military, and sacked the city. The number of inhabitants in the city withdrew to the Capitoline slope for security. Food supplies started to wane. At the same time, regardless of this, the consecrated geese of Juno's sanctuary were taken care of well and not transformed into food themselves. 9. One night, a gathering of Gauls endeavored to sneak into the capital by a shrouded way. The human and canine monitors all missed the gate crashers, yet the geese blared uproariously. Following the sound, the Romans had the option to toss back the aggressors, and the city was spared. From that point on, the geese of Juno were thought of as the defenders of the city. As indicated by Vietnamese old stories, the emperor was once crossing Hoan Kiem Lake when his blade, Paradise's will, was grabbed from him by a turtle which conveyed it down into the water. The emperor had been given the blade by a turtle god, thus he acknowledged this as another appearance by the god. Throughout the hundreds of years, nobody could concur if the turtle was as yet alive, as it just showed up irregularly. In 1998, the turtle was gotten on film in the lake and thought to be the hallowed turtle returned. By 2011, the turtle showed up substantially more oftentimes. Regularly it would stick its head over the surface, and crude, open injuries could be seen. It was believed that contamination was hurting the hallowed creature and tainting its injuries, so endeavors were made to clean the lake. The turtle was caught, and vets treated its injuries. In 2016, the turtle was discovered dead. Thought by researchers to be one of only 4 Yangtze monster soft-shelled turtles left alive, it was taken as a terrible sign both for professors in its holiness and the species itself.